It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Karey Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.
Good Sunday morning to you. This is Karey Brown, broker owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisor, and I am here today with Jim Garrison from State Farm. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Great, Karey. Thanks very much for having me this morning.
So, Jim, we're going to be talking about all things home ownership, and let's go ahead and start it off with homeowners insurance. What do you recommend?
Absolutely. Sort of a broad topic. And once again, thanks so much. My agency is located at 29th and Urish. Some of the four sections are the main things that people look at in their homeowners insurance. Predominantly is coverage A, and that's just how much your structure, how much your house is covered for. Is it covered for $100,000, $150,000? And sometimes a comparison is made to the sales price or even what the county appraiser has it at. What we're really trying to accomplish with homeowners insurance is cover it for the proper amount so your home could be rebuilt, particularly in the event of a total loss from a fire or tornado in particular. So sometimes the sales price may not always equate to what that expected replacement cost truly is. We have software that we use to establish that expected replacement cost, and it takes into consideration not only labor costs for skilled electricians and carpenters and everything, all the skilled trades that goes into building a home, but also the cost of materials. Unfortunately, we've seen the cost of materials, and in particular roofing materials, go up quite dramatically in the last 5 or 6 years. So behind the expected replacement cost tools is really what the cost of materials and what the labor is. So that's one part of your homeowner's insurance. Another part is your personal property. That's the clothes that we wear, that's the furniture that we use, the appliances, and basically, in a rough term, everything we moved in when we first bought that house. So there is a few limitations on personal property, and I think we'll cover those later. The personal property is oftentimes somewhere between 50% and 75% of what your coverage A or what your home was insured for. So in that case, let's say your home's insured for $100,000. A lot of policies would cover automatically personal property up to $75,000 or 75% of what your coverage A is. So that's the second important attribute of your homeowners. A third important attribute is liability coverage. That helps protect you if somebody's injured. It can be anywhere from maybe suit is drawn against you for something that happened in your backyard. Maybe it involves a trampoline or a swimming pool. Or let's say you're mowing your lawn and you inadvertently throw a stone and break a window on a neighbor's car. There's some coverage for liability, loss of use, and some other things that are covered under liability. And actually, I mentioned loss of use. That's a fourth and different attribute of your homeowners. And what that does, loss of use gives you the opportunity to pay for a motel and extra meals if you can't live in your home. If there's a bad fire and you need to live in a local hotel for some number of weeks or months or even maybe a year until your home can be rebuilt, loss of use covers those extra expenses, including extra restaurant meals that you may incur.
I know in southern Kansas, we've been having issues with earthquakes or earth movement. And talking with Vern Jarbo a couple of weeks ago, he mentioned earthquake insurance. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. That comes by endorsement on most homeowners policies, and it varies by your region, by where you're located, and really what the prevalence of earthquakes are in your particular area. As you may imagine, earthquake coverage is a lot more expensive in California than it is here in Kansas. Recently, we've seen some parts of the Boot Heel of Missouri become more expensive for earthquake coverage as well, simply because the perceived risk is higher. Here in Kansas, we're blessed with still pretty good rates when it comes to earthquake coverage. Usually, earthquake coverage is given as a percentage of your coverage A, what your house is insured for. So your deductible may be 2% in a lot of cases for earthquake coverage. But the good news is that endorsement on an annual basis might only be $70, $80, or $100, somewhere in that range, and possibly higher, depending on a couple other parts of what you do with earthquake endorsement.
Yeah, and along those lines, flood insurance. I know that when the Shunga flood, not too awful long ago, a few years ago, how does that work? Because I know there was some issues with the city backing up, but then there was also flood, actually water coming out of the banks of the Shunga. How does that work for homeowners?
Flood insurance is offered by FEMA. It's not a normal part of homeowners insurance. It is not included with homeowners insurance. Flood insurance gives you coverage if water comes into the home from sources where it normally shouldn't come from, as one may expect. It comes with several moving parts. To sum it up, if you have a below-ground basement, a walkout basement, you can't get flood coverage for your basement if you have even one step that you have to step up to get out of your basement. So flood insurance covers the floor that would be above that level. And you can cover both the building, the dwelling, as well as personal property. It's subject to 2 separate deductibles, and prices can vary depending on what floodplain you're in. So if you're at a higher elevation, flood insurance can be quite reasonable. If you're in close proximity, you mentioned the Shunga, close proximity to that, and in what would be considered a high hazard type of floodplain, it can be just as expensive as the homeowner's insurance, or in some cases even more. A brand new revelation that's just come out from FEMA recently, there's a $25 surcharge that's being added with the next renewal for all owner-occupied flood insurance policies, and $250 for non-owner occupied. So that's something that FEMA has just rolled out really within the last couple of months. So that's something that consumers may want to be aware of if they currently have flood insurance. There is a surcharge, unfortunately, that's being implemented.
Is it possible to assume someone else's flood insurance, like whenever transaction takes place in real estate from one owner to the next owner?
We have had situations where that is a possibility, and that allows the new homeowner to be eligible for the grandfathered rates. And really, that's just a gradual increase to the rates. As most consumers may be aware of, the FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, has not been self-sustaining. They've paid out more benefits than they've collected in premiums. So consequently, they've taken some steps to try to improve that situation from FEMA's perspective. So long story short, most everybody will see some type of rate increases when it comes to flood insurance. Some will be pretty dramatic and in quick fashion, and others with grandfathered policies will take a little longer to get implemented.
I know in selling a house, it's a big deal because a buyer may or may not qualify given the rate of the insurance.
Yeah, sometimes it's very unfortunate, but I've seen flood insurance premiums on an annual basis be $2,500 or $3,000, which seems like an extraordinary amount of money. But the FEMA flood maps have validated that it's a high risk flood area, unfortunately, in some cases.
Wow. So discounts, do they apply if you live closer to a fire station? How do those come into play?
Discounts they come down to the individual company that has the homeowners. The company I represent offers the best discounts for newer homes for having multiple car and the homeowners with the same policyholders. So cars and homeowners insurance together. A security system certainly helps. And another discount that my company offers is for impact-resistant shingles. If they're thicker, heavier UL Category 4 shingles, that allows you to receive a discount with State Farm as well. Other discounts may be close proximity to a fire station. In some cases, proximity to a fire plug or a hydrant, but not so much anymore. And rural areas, unfortunately, can have higher rates simply because maybe the house can't even be seen from the road, or it's a long ways to the fire station. So sometimes, in some cases, rural locations have higher homeowners insurance rates.
And you can negotiate your deductible too, can't you? So that your rates are a little less depending on how you structure that. That's
absolutely right, Karey. There's sort of 2 main philosophies there. One, and most people are aware of, a fixed dollar amount deductible, maybe $500 or $1,000 or a $2,000 fixed deductible. Something a little bit newer to homeowners deductibles is based on a percentage of what the home was insured for. So let's say it's a $200,000 home and you have a 1% deductible, your deductible would be $2,000. State Farm offers a half of 1%, and some other companies do as well. So it'll be 1/2 of 1% of what the dwelling A or what the home itself is insured for. So on that same $200,000 home, you'd have a $1,000 deductible. And it is an inverse relationship. As the deductible increases, the annual premium decreases. So with a 2% homeowner's deductible, you'd pay a lesser premium in most cases than you say if you had a 1% deductible. So increase your deductible, decrease your premium.
So for the homeowners that buy, I know whenever we look at different types of houses, we look at maintenance, brick versus vinyl versus wood frame. Is there a rate difference in those type of homes from brick to wood?
Depending on the building materials, that can certainly make a difference. Where we see the biggest one is there's poured in place type of concrete walls, and we've seen them to be more resistant to, of course, wind and hail, and particularly to tornado damage. So that can offer some advantages. Other things homeowners can do is definitely take those maintenance steps necessary. If there is a leak in the roof, go ahead and fix it. Keep the home in good repair, just like in your industry. Good curb appeal is good for the seller and good for the client that's looking to get insurance on their home.
When it comes to stone basements, how does that factor? If they're already old, structurally, there's not a lot you can do about that. Are they at a higher risk rate if they do have stone versus concrete?
The biggest concern there with native stone or CMU type of concrete walls is expansion and contraction of the soil around it. So in a case where maybe we have a really dry summer and then a lot of moisture or rain in the fall, sometimes that expansion can cause problems with those type of foundations. So there's no coverage for earth movement in most homeowners policies, or limited coverage. So that would be one attribute that the homeowner would want to be aware of if they have a home with CMU brick or concrete or a native stone type of foundation.
Okay. As far as contents, I know we discussed like clothing and things along those lines. Jewelry, guns, personal property that has a larger value. Do you carry separate policies, or is that just something that you roll into?
Most homeowners policies would have limitations for jewelry on both an aggregate and a piece-by-piece basis, limitation for computers, limitations for gold or silverware, and limitations for coins or collections that a person may have, whether it's baseball collections, coin collections, stamp collections. Everybody I'm aware of offers separate coverage for those type of items. It's either an inland marine policy, or we call it a personal articles policy. So that would give you very good coverage and cover many perils, different listed perils, for maybe a laptop computer that a college student takes off to campus, for a very special piece of art that you've found and put on your wall. You've had it appraised, and you want to make sure that you've got the very best coverage possible. A personal articles or inland marine policy covers that very well.
So jewelry, do you need to take it to the jewelry store and get it appraised, or is it just a broad number that you think it was worth this, like an heirloom or something along those lines? How does that work?
In the case of our company, we'd need to see a receipt that was less than 2 years old, or a recent appraisal, for just to quantify what the value of the jewelry is.
Okay. So if you got grandma's jewelry, you need to take it and get it looked at, and then talk to Jim Garrison.
Absolutely. And once in a while, some folks like to just go ahead and pass that on to the next generation too. So that's another way to deal with that, or simply keep it in a bank security box.
And if you would like to talk to Jim Garrison about insurance, his phone number is 785-272-0332. And you can also reach him by email at jim@jimgarrison.biz. That's JIM@JIMGARRISON.BIZ. And again, Jim Garrison is with State Farm Insurance, and he's located at 29th and Yearish. We'll be back in just a little bit with more Jim Garrison. I'm Karey Brown, broker owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.
This is Officer Mitch Soden with a safe driving tip from your Topeka Police Department. Your seatbelt serves many important functions. Cars are designed to crumple on impact, and the seatbelt will keep you restrained within the occupant area. The seatbelt is designed to absorb and dissipate forces through the large bone structures of the body through placement and stretching. Statistics show that those involved in collisions wearing seatbelts have faster recovery times and lower medical costs than those who don't. So please, buckle up.
This is Sergeant Colleen Stewart from your Topeka Police Department Crime Prevention Team. Spring is at your door, so are vacuums, alarm systems, magazine subscriptions, and fundraisers. Here's some information. Every peddler and solicitor is required to be licensed by the City of Topeka Clerk's Office, so ask for picture ID to confirm the name on the license. You have the right to see their license, and if they refuse, they can be ticketed. Make sure you call the police to report the incident. Sales are only allowed 1/2 hour before sunrise until 1/2 hour past sunset. Go to topeka.org to find out more. Together we can make Topeka the safest capital city in America.
They just told us right away that we're gonna house you, we're gonna feed you, and every single one of his medical bills is just all taken care of.
They've saved my family from financial ruin. It allowed me and my wife both to focus on the most important thing, which was the health and well-being of our son.
We have phenomenal research, outstanding clinical care, and the generosity of public, which allow us to treat patients regardless of what it takes. And that's what makes St. Jude so magical.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because the only thing a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Doctors send us the toughest cases to be treated at St. Jude, and our patients come from all over the world.
When we come here, they told me, don't worry, everything's been taken care of.
We could never repay St. Jude for what they've given us.
Because of you.
Gracias a ti. Because of you.
There is St. Jude.
Whether you explore your national forests and grasslands by car, motorcycle, four-wheel drive, or by an all-terrain vehicle, please remember that all-terrain travel doesn't mean all-terrain. Forest Service land managers have recently created detailed maps to show off-highway vehicle enthusiasts and others where they may legally operate motor vehicles. Remember to travel only on routes designated as open to motor vehicles, as shown on motor vehicle use maps available at Forest Service offices or by visiting respectedaccess.org. Click on the Motor Vehicle Maps link located on the home page. Follow these motor vehicle use maps to help keep national forests and grasslands in a healthy condition and to maintain public access to these beautiful backcountry landscapes. This message is brought to you by the nonprofit organization Tread Lightly, the USDA Forest Service, and this station, who remind you that respected access is open access.
We've been angry.
We've been hurt.
We've been lonely.
We've been pressured. We've been ashamed.
We've been miserable.
We've been hopeless.
We've been lost.
We've been labeled.
We've been invisible.
We've been controlled.
We've been judged. If you're one of the more than 26 million teens living in the U.S. today, chances are you'll go through your share of tough times. Let's face it, being a teen isn't easy. We know because we've been there. We've been accepted.
We've been supported.
We've been confident.
We've been brave. Check out reachout.com to hear teens share their own stories on how they've made it through tough times. You might even find ways to deal with all you're dealing with. Because we've been there, we can help each other.
We've been inspired.
We've been determined.
We've been acknowledged.
We've been given a chance.
We've been there.
We've been there.
We can help us.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Inspire USA Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. I'm here with Jim Garrison with State Farm Insurance. He's located at 29th and Urish. And Jim, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, thanks very much, Karey. I was raised here in Kansas, north central Kansas, attended Kansas State University, go Wildcats. Met my wife, married a few years back. I won't say how many. We have two boys. One's a sophomore at K-State, and the other attends middle school here in Shawnee County. After graduating from K-State with a degree in engineering, I spent some time with ConAgra and Cargill and one other food production company. So I had different responsibilities as far as maintenance and management of people and processes. Did that for about 12 or 13 years and decided I want to strike out on my own. my local State Farm agent in Milan, Missouri. His name was Rex May. Rex says, Jim, why don't you go check this out? And about 13 years ago, I did. And I've been a State Farm agent since July of 2003, since July of 03 here in Topeka. I first started in the Fairlawn Plaza and spent about 10 years, both inside the Fairlawn Plaza for about 6 months, and was right next to Office Max in the Fairlawn Plaza there at 21st and Urish. A couple years ago, we decided to move. We stayed in the same zip code, but we moved a little further west. We're now at 29th and Urish in the old Core First building there, right at the roundabout, 29th and Urish. I've enjoyed the opportunity to work with people on their homeowners and other insurance needs. So I sure do appreciate the opportunity to meet with you here today, Karey.
Well, thank you, and it's great meeting you. Again, if you want to get a hold of Jim, his phone number is 785-272-0332, and his email is jim@jimgarrison.biz. So, Jim, let's talk a little bit more about different ways that homeowners can get a break on their insurance, such as security systems and fire extinguishers, things along those lines. What other recommendations would you have? And
Absolutely.
How do those impact it?
Some of the best things you can do is obviously make sure you've got a deadbolt that works. Make sure your fire extinguisher is in the kitchen and maybe even one in the garage for safety's sake. If you have a monitored security system, if Lighthouse or ADT or one of the monitoring companies monitors your system, there's many innovations out there. You can monitor that from your smartphone now and even control and have video of what's going on maybe in your kitchen or who's at the front door. So a lot of neat innovations there when it comes to home security. Those offer you a discount. They certainly do. I'd mentioned briefly before, but in Kansas, we're very prone to hail. So one of the things my company offers is a good discount for impact-resistant shingles. They're usually thicker, and UL rates those as a 4, and we have a very extensive list that's available on statefarm.com. And some of these other topics that we're talking about as well, Karey, we have a learning center, a learning library that many of these topics are also addressed right there at statefarm.com, and hit the insurance tab and look for homeowners insurance. And it'll talk through and has some white papers on some of these very same topics that we're discussing today. Impact-resistant shingles can give you a good discount, and hopefully the next time a hailstorm comes along, if it's not a really, really tough one with grapefruit-sized hail, you might be able to not have to replace that roof. So it costs a little more going on, but between the discounts and maybe avoiding having to replace a roof in the future, it can really have some payback in the future for you.
I know we run into it quite often where homes, they've just layered over another layer. Are there specific layers that are not okay where insurance says you got to take that off?
Yeah, 3 layers is definitely a no-no. And for a homeowner, aesthetically, it usually doesn't look very good.
No.
Unfortunately, it can cost more to tear off those extra layers as well. But 3 layers is definitely a no-no.
Yeah. So 2 layers is okay, or prefer just to leave it at 1?
1 is obviously the ideal. Yeah. One other part, Karey, I wanted to talk about, and a very important part of your homeowner's insurance is what's called loss of use. I mentioned it just briefly, but that is one thing that consumers may want to take a strong look at. Some companies offer just a set dollar amount. When we see a large tornado, maybe a category 3 or 4 or 5, sometimes it's very difficult to identify and get contractors to be able to fix your home, particularly if it's nearly a total loss. And that can take upwards of a year. We've had some cases where it's gone nearly 2 years. So as a homeowner, you want to understand what that limitation is. Is it a limitation based on a set dollar amount, or is it a percentage of what your coverage A is, or is it unlimited? So you'll want to understand that. And it's particularly, like I say, in the event of a fire or tornado, that can be a very, very important attribute of your homeowner's insurance.
When it comes to homeowners with pools, what do you recommend as far as coverage goes on those?
Well, we recommend to have ample liability coverage, at least $300,000, and for safety's sake, a fence around that pool if at all possible. Oftentimes, we come across pools that have automatic covers, and that's a great solution as well. But probably your 2 best solutions is a fence with the latch being at least 48 inches above the surface of your sidewalk. So a high latch that a 3 or 4 year old child couldn't open up inadvertently if the pool was ever left unattended, or if the pool's not doesn't have anybody there and you've got one of the automatic covers, definitely get the cover back in place over it.
Let's talk a little bit about umbrella insurance. Tell me a little bit about that.
Umbrella insurance, or personal liability umbrella policy, as sometimes it's called, or a PLUP, offers you additional protection. Usually we see it exercised in the event of a bad traffic accident. Let's say you're driving your car, you had a bad traffic accident. It's a tough situation, and there's fatalities involved. Sometimes the attorneys for the other parties, the folks and the families that were impacted, will ask that attorney to contact you and file suit because of maybe wrongful death or something else involved like that. An umbrella policy, once the liability limits on your homeowners or your policy for your vehicles is exceeded. Let's say you have $250,000 for bodily injury, people in the other car, up to $500,000 aggregate. If that's exceeded, a liability umbrella comes into place and gives you some peace of mind. That's available in increments of $1 million. So you could have a $1 million, a $2 million, a $3 million personal umbrella, depending on what your personal needs are for your household and for your financial situation.
Speaking of driving, do you have the cameras that you install for like teenagers driving, or is that?
That's a great question. There is a company that offers that. State Farm feels that's a little bit intrusive, but we do offer a system that fully monitors acceleration, hard braking, how the driver turns left-hand and right-hand corners, and the time of day that the vehicle is driven. If somebody would want to put that in their vehicle, and we have many parents with teenagers that feel that's a very good fit to help monitor how their teenager is doing and performing behind the wheel. State Farm offers that, and I know many other companies do. We call it Drive Safe and Save. I think Progressive, American Family, many others offer that same type of tool just to monitor how that vehicle is being driven. So it does offer a discount. I personally have one on my pickup truck, and it has offered me a discount, fortunately. It will stay there when my youthful driver starts driving that truck, too.
He will know what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I get a neat little report card. It has A pluses or C minuses, and we'll see hopefully somewhere in the middle.
Is there a particular age of car that goes with, or is that standard across the board, no matter the age of the car?
I believe that technology was first available in 1988 or 89, so most vehicles on the road today offer that. Also, with State Farm's program, you can plug into the GM program, OnStar, that's available, and in some late model Fords, they have a system that's very readily accessible as well. So, and in the near future, it'll be accessible by smartphone application as well. So that Drive Safe and Save and what other companies offer can help a person with their auto insurance keep the rates low and or help monitor how the vehicle's being used and driven. Karey, thanks so much for the opportunity to talk about homeowners insurance and really the 4 most important sections: coverage for your house, coverage for your personal property, coverage for liability, and coverage for loss of use. We talked a little bit about discounts and some of the ways to make sure you get those discounts. Talked about the relationship between a higher deductible and being able to reduce your annual premium on your homeowner's insurance. We talked just briefly about renter's insurance for college students and folks starting out. That can help. Renter's insurance for your apartment or the place that you're renting can help make sure that your personal property is protected. And lastly, an umbrella coverage and what that may offer the normal homeowner. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. My team and I are at 272-0332.
Thank you so much, Jim. And next week we will have the Karey Brown team here to discuss how we market, tips for getting your house ready, and different things that you can be doing in this awesome market that is absolutely at this moment great for sellers. We have a lot of buyers and not enough sellers. So if you're looking to sell your house, now's the time. Again, this is Karey Brown with Real Estate 101. I'm the broker owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Karey Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors. Tune in again next Sunday at 11 o'clock for Real Estate 101.